Hi everyone, we've just started the audio recording, and now I'm very excited to introduce our presenter for today, JJ Hanley.
Hi, Katie and everyone. This is JJ Hanley talking with you from the Office of the State Treasurer of Illinois, out of which this exciting new savings program called ABLE, Illinois ABLE, is administered. So my job today is to make sure that when this call is over, you feel like you have enough information to enroll if you're considering enrolling, or enough information to help somebody else enroll in an ABLE account if it's something that makes sense for that individual. So I'm going to get started, and I think we're going to. I'm totally open to having questions asked as I'm presenting, and I think that Katie or Caitlin will be handing them to me as I go through it. And if it's a question that's going to be answered, I'll put it in the parking lot. And if it's something that needs to be answered right away, I will do so. I'm going to keep it relatively high level. There's lots of other information that you can get afterward, but I want to make sure that you all feel really comfortable with the idea of what ABLE is, why it exists, and what it can do for you or for someone that you support. Okie dokie. So, ABLE accounts, let's learn about them. Let's see if I can move this. All righty. Why was ABLE needed? And before telling you what it is, I'm going to tell you why it was needed. Most of the people on this call are familiar with the Americans with Disabilities Act, and part of that act says it's one of its goals and objectives is to assure equality of opportunity, full participation, independent living, and economic self-sufficiency for and by people with disabilities. But most of us know that if you're an individual with a disability who receives federal means-tested benefits such as Social Security, particularly SSI, and Medicaid and other federal means-tested benefits, those means tests often put a cap on how much you can have, how many financial assets you can have. Those benefits caps have contributed to extreme financial instability for people with disabilities and prevented our community from achieving that full participation in independent living and economic self-sufficiency that's promised in the Americans with Disabilities Act. So it also disincentivized folks with disabilities from working. You know, if you're on SSI and you work, how can you save money? Because as soon as you go through the 2,000 asset cap, you're not able to, you lose your benefits. And finally, before ABLE, because of the way our system is set up, only people who had means, who had the ability to pay to get a special needs trust established for an individual with a disability, had a pathway to achieving any kind of independence. So that's what the need that has been out there for generations now. Then in 2014, along came the ABLE Act, which stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience. And essentially what it is a way for individuals with disabilities and their families to save and invest their private money without losing access to or losing their much-needed federal means-tested benefits. So for the first time, when the ABLE Act was passed in 2014, it meant that people with disabilities could now begin to build assets and begin to build self-reliance, begin to be able to save funds for short-term, medium-term, long-term, rainy day emergency expenses. And we're going to get into what some of those expenses are that are included in this. So some of the many benefits about these ABLE accounts, and I'm not, I want you to know that I'll go through all of these, and then I'll save lots of time for answering your questions. So by owning an ABLE account, the individual with a disability, who is always the ABLE account owner, no matter what the level of significance of the disability, no matter whether or not the individual is under guardianship or living and serves as his or her own guardian. So now a person with a disability owns the account, owns his or her increased financial freedom. For those who receive SSI benefits, you all know about that $2,000 monthly cap. Oh, I'm jumping around a little bit here. Let me go back to protecting the SSI benefits. Yes, so protecting the SSI benefits up to $100,000, what does that mean? It means that if you're on SSI, you know you've got that $2,000 asset cap. If you hit that cap and you've got $2,100 in a checking account, Social Security will suspend your benefits, correct? So people with disabilities spend a lot of time trying to stay under that cap, often spending money unnecessarily just to stay below that cap and stay forever financially unstable. With an ABLE account, you can continue to receive your SSI benefits, go beyond the $2,000 cap, and until you reach $100,000 in your ABLE account, that's when Social Security will temporarily suspend your benefits. You do not lose eligibility. Your benefits are just temporarily suspended, but your ABLE account would need to reach $100,000 before that happens. So there's the difference between an individual being kept under in chronic poverty under $2,000 and being able to actually save and invest and live with much greater financial independence. There is no Medicaid asset cap nor SSDI asset cap. So in other words, your Medicaid will remain intact no matter how much is in your ABLE account. As I mentioned, because of the asset rules around Social Security, a lot of folks with disabilities either don't work or don't want to work more or can't accept that raise that's offered. That all changes when you have an ABLE account because now you can put your additional earnings into an ABLE account and save and invest just like everybody else in the typical population. You can be a contributor and a participant. It's a great place, an ABLE account is a great place where folks who want to write you a check, give you a gift of money, that money can be deposited into an ABLE account. For so long, families would tell other family members who might want to give a gift to an individual with a disability not to do so because of the problems that it creates for benefits. If you have an ABLE account, that's no longer the case. Additionally, if you are an individual who has a special needs trust, an ABLE account is a terrific add-on tool. Funds can be transferred on a regular basis or whenever the trustee transfers them over into your ABLE account from your special needs trust. And also going back to that, a place for gift money to go, a place for your paycheck to go, a place for insurance settlements to go, things that are in your name. If you are on benefits, the ABLE account is a place where these contributions can go. I also really like to emphasize that ABLE accounts are not meant for the wealthy. ABLE accounts are meant for us, for hardworking middle-class families who don't have, don't need, or don't want a special needs trust. There are some differences between an ABLE account and a special needs trust, but an ABLE account for the first time allows people with disabilities and their families to establish that independence without the need to invest in and spend money on getting a special needs trust. That isn't to say that special needs trusts don't play a role in the lives of individuals with disabilities. They most certainly can and do. And I'm not an attorney and cannot give you guidance about when or if to have one. But before ABLE accounts, you either had a special needs trust or you could never get above that $2,000 cap. The earnings that you earn on an ABLE account are tax-free, and the withdrawals, no tax payments on them as long as you use them for qualified disability expenses, which we'll talk about. And in Illinois, if I am an Illinois taxpayer, if I pay taxes in Illinois and I make a contribution to any Illinois ABLE account, I can get a tax deduction on my state income taxes for making that contribution, which is a really terrific way to help with my taxes, and I have done so. I have made gifts to individuals' ABLE accounts, and I've been able to take the tax deduction from my state income taxes for doing so. If you're an individual or someone who has a family member or knows someone who has a 529 college savings account, for those of you who know what those are, it's a special savings account that you can have to save for college and higher education. If you had one and it's determined that you're not going to use it, you can roll it over into an ABLE account. And finally, there are some easy investment and checking options that come with ABLE accounts. So before I go on to the next slide, I just want to ask you to get into the mindset when we're thinking about ABLE accounts, we're not thinking as much about the social services, about federal benefits, about the SSA system and Medicaid. We're thinking about the private sector, the part of the world that most folks with disabilities until now have not been able to participate in. And ABLE accounts, when you're thinking about them as a supporter or as a self-advocate, you want to think about it being similar to saving for retirement. You've probably all heard of 401ks and Roth IRAs and health savings accounts for health savings. That's the world that you enter when you open and manage an ABLE account. So it's a terrific bridge between getting the federal means-tested benefits that you need and having the opportunity to save for your disability-related expenses. So I'm going to move on to the next slide, and if anybody has questions, I'm sure that Caitlin will pass them my way. So there are some qualifications to being able to open an Illinois ABLE account. The first is, in order currently under federal law to have and open an ABLE account, your disability onset has to have taken place prior to turning age 26. You don't have to get a diagnosis before 26. You don't have to open the account before you turn 26. Your disability just has to have been acquired prior to 26. So my son has autism spectrum disorder. He was diagnosed at age 3. That would qualify. If you are born with a disability, often individuals with developmental, intellectual, cognitive disabilities, they start or they're apparent well before age 3, and those individuals qualify. So that's one of the qualifiers. I'm going to mention at the end the ABLE Age Adjustment Act, which is on Capitol Hill now, and we are working really hard to push to get this age increase because, like many of you, I have thought, why is this arbitrary age 26 there? It has to do with the price tag of ABLE that was in front of Congress in 2014 when we were trying to get the act passed. And the only way to get it passed was to say, okay, we're going to cut in, by almost a half the number of people who can actually qualify by cutting the age. But it has left out a good 6 million individuals across the nation from being able to open these really useful, helpful accounts. So we're working hard to change the age of onset law, and I hope I can ask for your help in doing that. The second qualifier is your disability has to be significant enough that you would qualify for or you are receiving SSI, SSDI, or Medicaid. Your disability has to meet the definition or the standard set by the Social Security Administration, not the Americans with Disability Act definition, but the Social Security Administration. Do you have to already be receiving those benefits? No. You just have to have a level of disability that would qualify you to do so. And if you are not receiving benefits and don't intend to receive benefits, you just need to have in your possession a letter from a licensed physician that shows the diagnosis and the age of onset. So in my son's case, his diagnosis was made by a psychiatrist, an MD, when he was 3 years old, and I have that documentation. If your age of onset was prior to 26 and you are receiving SSI, SSDI, Medicaid, you automatically qualify. You don't have to keep in your possession that letter. You notice how I say keep in your possession? unlike the world of Social Security benefits where you have to demonstrate, check lots of boxes, demonstrate and prove over and over and over again everything that you have or do or need, in this world, into this private sector world, it's an honor system. It's your judgment. You know whether or not, or your physician can give you a letter, or is willing to give you a letter that says you qualify for ABLE. You hang on to that. It goes in your file cabinet. You don't send it to the Social Security Administration. You don't send it to Illinois ABLE when you enroll. You hang on to it. Why? Because this is a program that comes out of the Treasury Department, it's an IRS, Internal Revenue Service monitored program, not a Social Security or Medicaid program. So just like when we save our documentation for paying our taxes, this is tax related. So if you are ever audited, the auditors will ask you for the proof that you qualify for the account, in which case you'll want to have that letter handy. But you never send it in to Illinois ABLE. In fact, if you do, we'll destroy it. Nor do you have to send in receipts or anything else like that. So this is really different, really new, really exciting for our community. So I've mentioned, qualified disability expenses. We're on to contributions. Before we talk about how I can spend the money in my account, let's talk about how we can put money into my account. I talked about paychecks. You can have your paycheck direct deposited. Money received from others, gift money, right? Third parties, a distribution from a special needs trust. You could even raise funds through a fundraiser. And let's say you wanted to purchase new accessible equipment, or had some medical needs or some other kinds of needs that you couldn't take care of yourself, and there were lots of folks who wanted to help you do that, you can have those contributions put into your ABLE account for your use and for your disability-related expenses. So what is a disability-related expense? What can I use my ABLE funds for? The list is long. It's longer than what you see on this slide. But I'll run through, the most important ones, or the ones people think about a lot. Transportation, job coaches, tutors, higher education, college, things that you might need, daily expenses, paying your rent, if you need additional personal assistance, being able to take a class, paying for healthcare expenses and wellness expenses that perhaps a Medicaid program or other insurance doesn't pay for. The list is legal expenses, financial advisory expenses, death expenses related to burial if and when you pass away. All of those and more fall under a broad list of qualified disability related expenses that you can use the funds in your ABLE account to pay for. Again, comparing this to the IRA world, in the world where you have a retirement account, when I have I'm saving retirement, if I withdraw that money before my retirement age, I will pay taxes on the earnings of the amount that I withdrawed, and I'll pay a penalty to the federal government for taking my money out too soon. With an ABLE account, as long as you're using your funds for the expenses that are related to you living with a disability, you pay no taxes, there are no penalties. And so folks have said, well, does a vacation count as a qualified disability-related expense? Or, what other things count? And they get a little nervous about it because we, again, are used to being very heavily monitored on how individuals with disabilities use their funds. In the case of an ABLE account, the Congress has said when it passed the law that disability-related expenses are the additional expenses or expenses that come with living with a disability, that are related to living with a disability. And they include things, the expenses that maintain or improve my health, my independence, or my quality of life. So the judgment is on you, the account owner, and your support team to decide, are these expenses that will improve my health, independence, or quality of life? Traveling, if I get an opportunity to go to a conference related to my disability, would that help me maintain and improve my health, independence, or quality of life? That's a decision for you to make. I know how I would decide, but it's not my job to advise you. Again, very broad. The Treasury said to construe this broadly to include basic living expenses. And the Treasury said that it is not limited to expenses that are medically necessary or that provide no benefit to others in addition to the account owner. I have interpreted that as being that, let's say I go somewhere and I need a personal support worker to take that trip. Well, if the personal support worker it benefits from the travel as well as I do, I believe that's what that line means. It means that my benefit can also benefit the folks around me. But I do caution you to be responsible about how you spend your ABLE funds, not just for yourself, and with the, cautioning that if you are audited, you will need to show the receipts and the statements for how you spent your money. But also because this is our program. This belongs to people with disabilities, and we want to be protective of it because, and I mean protective in a way that says we want to make sure that the integrity of the program is protected, that folks don't use their funds fraudulently or abuse the ABLE accounts, because that will affect all of us. So again, broad, long list of disability-related expenses. So who can open my ABLE account? Remember we said, do I qualify? Onset of a disability before age 26, and I qualify under the definition of SSA for disability. But who can open that account? Well, if I'm an adult and I'm not under guardianship, I can open the account for myself. Even if I don't open it for myself, I will always be the account owner. I own this. If I am a child, or if I am an adult who is under guardianship, or I'm an adult who doesn't feel comfortable opening and managing my own account and handling the financial aspect of it, or the organizational aspects of holding and owning an account, I can ask another above age 18 adult to do it for me. So that person would be called an authorized individual, and that person can open and manage the account for me. And let's see, I think I just saw a hand go down, so I'm hoping Richard, if that's you, if you have a question, try it again. So if you are an account owner, you just go online, you can open the account, or you can do it by mailing in a paper form. I'm going to show you a little bit about that in a minute. If you are going to serve as an authorized individual, when you open the account for someone else, for the individual with a disability, if that individual is a child, as a parent, you can open the account. And many parents have. Many parents of very young children have opened these accounts and have begun socking away money that earns tax-free and can be withdrawn tax-free and without penalty for current use or for later use for the individual with the disability. So lots of younger parents have begun opening ABLE accounts for their kids who have disabilities. If I want to open the account as an authorized individual for an adult who has a disability, I need to submit proof that I have the authority to open and operate that account on using somebody else's social security number. So in other words, as an authorized individual, if I'm going to open an account for, let's say, my son John, he's the account owner, I need to prove that I have the authority to operate on John's social security number. So I either need to submit a copy of the power of attorney that John signed, or a copy of the guardianship of the estate that I have for my son John, or my I hate to use the word ward, but for the individual who's under guardianship of the estate with me as guardian. And then finally, if I'm a parent of an adult with a disability and I don't have guardianship of the estate, I just have guardianship of the person, which is very common in Cook County, I can submit a copy of my child's birth certificate. So I could submit a copy of John's birth certificate to Illinois ABLE when I enroll him and open his account. I hope that's clear, and I don't want to confuse you a whole ton, so let me give you a break, let you think about that, and read what Lauren McLean in Olney, Illinois has to say about the Illinois ABLE account they opened for their child. So I hope you took a chance to read Lauren's testimony about the ABLE account that she's opened for her beautiful little boy, Alex, who's in the middle of this picture, and kind of get inspired by what you see. Not going to spend a lot of time on this slide. If you want deep dive in the weeds information about the investments that you can, the different options you can have with an Illinois ABLE account, I encourage you to go to the enrollment website. I encourage you to go to the plan disclosure documents that are on the website and spend a little time getting familiar with it. But at a high level, we really did make saving and investing easy. For a lot of folks in the disability community, having never been able to save and invest money, we don't really think much about it. So now we have these, you'll go and you'll get to the place on the enrollment form where it says, okay, where do you want to put your money in this account? And you go, what? What's aggressive? What's moderately conservative? What's growth? What's BlackRock? What's Charles Schwab? You know, we're like, whoa, we got to learn. So here's an opportunity for us to start to think about, well, how do we want to use the money? How do I want to use the money? Am I saving for 10 years down the road? And I'm okay if the markets, if the financial markets go up and down, which as we all know they can do and have done, and I'll be comfortable with that. Is my comfort with that kind of risk super high? I'm really comfy. I might choose aggressive. Or I might be an individual who says, you know what, I want to invest, but I need to hang on to the money that goes in there. I can't risk it going up and down because I might need it sooner, or I just can't sleep at night if I have my money all in that aggressive fund, which is mostly stocks. I think I might put my money in a conservative option. Suffice to say that there are 6 of these kinds of options: aggressive, moderately aggressive, growth, moderate, moderately conservative, and conservative. They are all passively managed funds. That means that they track certain benchmarks in the financial markets. It means that they are funds that are operated by very well-known names. You see them: BlackRock, Vanguard, Charles Schwab. I'm sure many of you have at least heard of one of those names. And the breakdown of how your money is invested varies from a lot of equities in the aggressive to mostly cash in the conservative. So again, encourage you to take a look at, when you go to the enrollment and you go to the page, spend some time understanding on the enrollment website. We have a terrific page called "What Type of Investor Are You?" And you can go on that page and you can kind of you can follow through and sort of look at some of the examples that are given about what kinds of thinking goes into how you want to invest your money, when you might need the money. And that can help you before you get into the enrollment part and get to that place where they say, okay, tell us where you want to put your funds. The other fabulous thing about Illinois ABLE, and if you can't tell that I'm excited about ABLE, I'll start to talk louder and faster. But as a sidebar, I have been both a parent and a professional in the disability community for 25 plus years, and I started a Yelp.com style website called jjslist.com. I worked for a service provider. I have always been really involved in entrepreneurial ways to change the economic picture for people with disabilities. That's just been my wheelhouse. And when this program came along, I left everything else I was doing to start working for the Treasurer's Office to help to grow ABLE, because I do believe it's the most important and transformative opportunity that's come our way as a community in a very, very long time. So when I say go look at what type of investor are you, spend a little time learning. It's an exciting opportunity for us to start to engage economically. And when we engage economically, we have a voice and we have a power that the disability community has not known before. So very exciting stuff. And what makes the Illinois ABLE program so terrific and unique is that in addition to those 6 investment options, you can also choose a checking account option that is handled by Fifth Third Bank. The checking account option is a super popular part of the program. A lot of folks have some money in the investment options, you know, these guys, one of these, and some, and then they have another portion in the checking account that comes with a debit card. It comes with, it's fully FDIC insured. You can use something like 54,000 fee-free ATMs across the nation. You can pay your bills out of the checking account option. You can get a checkbook with the checking account option. And I think I mentioned the real-time debit card. Those are things that are very unique to the Illinois ABLE plan. And that sort of makes the checking account option the 7th of the options. Okay, couple of factoids you need to know. One is, per year, the most that can go into your ABLE account currently is $15,000. That's aggregate. That means if grandma, mom, sister, brother, and I contribute to an individual's ABLE account, that the aggregate amount that can go in each year is $15,000. If I am an individual with a disability who is working and I have an ABLE account, I can contribute more than the $15,000. I can contribute up to, there's the 15, and then I can contribute my gross earnings. So let's say I earn $10,000 a year. I can contribute that much or that equivalent into my ABLE account. Or if I earn $15,000 a year, I can contribute up to the poverty limit of $12,000. That is a typo, by the way. That $490, I believe it's $12,180 this year. It goes up every year. It's the poverty limit. So I don't want to confuse folks with all those numbers, but just to say that if you're working, you can put more into your ABLE account than folks who are not working. You can only have one ABLE account. You cannot have an ABLE account in Ohio, Illinois, and California. You can only have one ABLE account. So spend a little time looking at the different ABLE accounts. There are 42 states that offer ABLE plans now. Illinois is one of them. It is always recommended that you look at your state's plan first, and that's because of things like the tax benefits that you may experience as an Illinois resident, you know, in our case. Some folks have opened their accounts in other states. You can explore and look at different state plans, but it's always recommended that you look at your state plan first. And because you can only have one account, start with your state and then look around if you want to look elsewhere. Remember when I said there's a $2,000 cap for Social Security, and if you have an ABLE account and you're on SSI, you can save up to $100,000 before Social Security suspends your benefits. Well, then you might say, well, then why is she saying on this slide that a maximum total balance permitted in an ABLE account is $450,000? I thought it was $100,000. Well, because that $100,000 is just the new marker that Social Security uses for ABLE account owners. If you want to go beyond $100,000 in your savings, your entire ABLE account could be as large as $450,000. Well, given that you can only put 15 in a year, and a lot of folks spend some of that money each year, it'll take a long time for us to get to where our accounts can be as big as $450,000. Right now, the average account size in Illinois is about $6,500. So it's going to be a while, but again, it's that $100,000 is just a Social Security marker. It's not the total size that your account can get to. But think about the program has only been in existence for 2 years here in Illinois. And the folks that own ABLE accounts have already saved on average $6,500. That's $4,000 plus above their $2,000 SSI cap. just think how much greater financial independence those individuals are beginning to feel. There are no withdrawal limits. You don't have to get permission to take money out. You don't have to have, only a couple of times a year can you take money out or put money in. It's a very flexible account. It's your account. The twice per year investment option change means that if you have selected one of those 6 investment options and the checking account option, and you decide, hey, I was in aggressive, but I don't really want to be in aggressive anymore. I want to be in conservative. You can make that change. You can make a change like that, but you can only do it twice a year in a calendar year. So don't plan on putting the money in and then moving it around from different options all the time. So you want to, again, think about how you want to break out your contributions. There are fees associated with ABLE accounts. Some like to say they are a heck of a lot lower than special needs trust fees, and that is very true. They are also extremely low cost for the quality of the account and program that individuals are able to access. Basically, there's an asset-based fee, which is about a third of 1%. That means for every $1,000 that you have invested, you're going to pay something around $3 a year for that, for having the funds invested in Illinois ABLE. The account maintenance fee is one that the program manager charges, who helps us manage this program. And that, if you're getting your statements paper, you're going to pay $15 a quarter for the account. If you get them electronically, it's $11.25 quarterly that's charged by Illinois ABLE to manage your account for you. And there was something I was going to say, and I forgot what it was. I forgot. And then with the checking account option, if you choose the checking account option, which is very popular, as long as you keep $250 in the account or you get e-delivery of your statements, there's the checking option fee of $2 a month is waived. So again, there are fees. Be aware of them. Know what they are. And you can get them reduced by accepting e-delivery. But these fees, you get quarterly statements and monthly statements, and those are the statements that will be your evidence if you were ever to be audited of how the funds were spent. Okay, to open an ABLE account. If you are comfortable going online, I recommend it. It's faster. It's easy. It's ill.savewithable.com. But if you're not comfortable being online, and many folks aren't, you can download, or somebody can download for you, the enrollment form, and you can complete it on paper and mail it in, along with any supporting documents if you need to send them. If you need help getting a paper form sent, you can call the customer service number and they will send one to you by mail. I will tell you that the customer service folks at 888-609-8683 are unbelievably helpful. They can answer all kinds of your questions. So don't hesitate to pick up the phone and get them to walk you through the process of opening an ABLE account. I mentioned the Able Age Adjustment Act. It has been, the bill is in both the House and the Senate in Washington, Senate Bill 651 and House Bill 1814. I strongly encourage everyone on this call to make themselves aware of it. We are working, in fact, as soon as I get off the phone, I'll be on a call with the senators in Washington who are supporting this bill and who have sponsored it. And we need your help to support the bill. Tell your senators, tell your representatives here in Illinois that you want to see them co-sponsor the bills and to get it passed. It isn't fair that if I had an accident that caused a disability after I turned 26, that I should not be able to open an ABLE account. In fact, our own Senator Tammy Duckworth, who lost both of her legs in Iraq after age 26, currently does not qualify to open an ABLE account. And not surprisingly, she is a co-sponsor of Senate Bill 651. We can talk about Medicaid clawback during the Q&A, because I want to give you guys a chance to start asking questions. This is Wendy Settles. She lives in Springfield. She works for a Center for Independent Living in Springfield. She's been saving for an accessible vehicle. And last I heard from Wendy, she had saved enough money in her ABLE account to put a down payment on an accessible car, which is really very exciting. I'm going to ask Katie and Caitlin. We have a monthly news and updates called AccessABLE, which will give you all the information about what's going on with Illinois ABLE, what's going on with legislation. I hope I can encourage you all to sign up and start getting that in your inbox. The sign-up information is here on the slide, this bit.ly piece, but you can also just shoot me an email, and I'll make sure you get on it. At jjhanley@illinoistreasurer.gov, or you can email Rosemary Laudani, who's our program manager, at rlaudani@illinoistreasurer.gov. That's our contact information. And last but not least, I have to put up our disclaimer, which basically says, I'm not an attorney, I'm not a financial advisor, and I can't advise you in any way. I can just give you the facts, ma'am. Okay, that's all I have to say for now. Happy to take questions.
Thank you so much, JJ. That was such a great wealth of information. I want to remind people that if you have any questions, you can use the chat box feature. It's on the lower right-hand side. There's a speech bubble that you click on, and then you can type any question that you might have.
And don't hesitate to ask any question or for me to repeat, because I know this is a lot of information.
I have a question to start, but maybe I'll just remind people, to get to the speech bubble, you click on the pink or red X on the bottom right-hand corner, and then your tool option will pop out, and then you can go ahead and click on the speech bubble and type in a question. So JJ, I have a question for you. You talked about how due to the SSI limit of $2,000, people can put additional money into the ABLE account, which is wonderful. So as an example, if my sister with a disability has an ABLE account, if 1 month she is going to have more than $2,000, let's say she's going to have $2,200, she could take $200 and put it into her ABLE account, so that her monthly amount goes down to $2,000, and then extra money in the ABLE account. Is that an okay use of it?
Yes, that's a way to use it, Katie. I think what you're saying is we're looking at it as okay, I have a checking account for my sister, and she gets SSI, and other money may go into that account, and we monitor that account, and if we see that it's going to go above $2,000, can we transfer, the $200 or some amount into the ABLE account to keep that checking account below $2,000?
Right.
And yes, absolutely, an ABLE account can be used in that way. What I would suggest is that people begin to think about why are we keeping any money in that other checking account, because we're constantly having to monitor it. If I have a checking option and I want to put the money into my ABLE account, you can. If you are receiving SSI benefits, you currently can't direct deposit them into an ABLE account if you have a representative payee. So it would have to go first into the regular checking account.
Okay.
But it can be moved over to the ABLE account. What I would say is, if you're on SSI and you qualify based on age, it's actually, you're taking more risk not to have an ABLE account, because you're playing with that $2,000 asset cap so much more regularly than if you have an ABLE account and you have funds going into the ABLE account, which Social Security will not count as a resource until it gets to $100,000. If that makes sense.
Thanks. That was really helpful. Thank you for putting that through.
And I see that there's a question that came through, but I'm not sure. I'm not actually seeing the questions.
Yeah, I'd just like to remind everyone that to access the chat box, click on the bottom, in the bottom right-hand corner, there is a little pink tab. It has arrows on it. When you click on those arrows, it will expand and you can access the chat box. I've noticed a few people have raised their hands. Unfortunately, as a participant, you're not able to speak. So to ask your question, you're gonna, we need you to type it into the chat box. Thank you.
Something, while we're waiting to see if any folks have questions about it, if talking about different accounts, I want to make something really clear, and that is, if you have, let's say I have a Chase Bank checking account, and that's my checking account into which my SSI benefits are direct deposited, and I open an ABLE account, and I have that account as well. So now I have the two accounts. And let's say that my checking account is at $1,500. I have $1,500 in my regular Chase checking account, and I have $1,500 in my ABLE checking account. So I have two accounts. They both, each of them has $1,500 in them. If I get a check for $1,000 from my mom, and I'm deciding where I should put that check, and I'm going to make this a quiz and see if anybody can tell me using the chat bubble. Which account should I put that $1,000 check into? Should I put it into my Chase Bank checking account, or should I put it into my ABLE account? Which one should I put it into? Can anybody guess which one? And I'm going to give this example one more time. I have my Chase Bank checking account, and it has $1,500 in it. And I have my ABLE account, and it has $1,500 in it. And my mom writes me a check for $1,000. So that's going to give me a total of $2,500, $2,500 in one of those accounts. Should I put the check into my Chase regular checking account and let that go to $2,500, or should I put the money into my ABLE account and let that go to $2,500? Well, we've got some poll results going here. One person said put it in the Chase checking account. Anybody else? Where should the check for $1,000 go if I have a Chase checking account and I'm receiving SSI? I have a Chase checking account and its balance is $1,500, and my mom gives me $1,000. Should I put that $1,000 in my Chase checking account and total $2,500 in my Chase checking account, or should I put it in my ABLE account and total that to $2,500? The answer is, are we ready for the answer? I think we are. The answer is you should put it in your ABLE account. And why is that? Well, because if you put the $1,000 into your Chase checking account and you receive SSI benefits, it's going to put you up to $2,500 and your benefits are going to be suspended. If you put the $1,000 into your ABLE account, it's going to take that account to $2,500, and your Chase checking account will stay at $1,500, and you won't lose your SSI benefits. Some people think that, well, I have an ABLE account, so it doesn't, didn't you tell me, JJ, that if I have an ABLE account, and then I don't have to worry about that $2,000 asset cap? Didn't you say that? Well, I did, except that the money has to be in the ABLE account. It can't be in other places in your name, and those other places include that Chase checking account, if that makes sense. So I hope I didn't confuse you with that example, but gave you something to think about when you're thinking about your financial wellness and how to save your money and where to put your money. So I'll stop there and see if Katie or Caitlin has any other questions they want to send my way.
Thanks, JJ. That was a great example. I don't see any other questions that we have.
Cool.
We'll do one last call for if anybody has any questions, feel free to type it into the chat box.
And Katie, if it's okay, I'd love to give you all a website address, a URL, a website address. You can see the savewithable.com. That actually should say ill.savewithable.com, or you can do a Google search to type in Illinois ABLE to find the Illinois ABLE program. But I also want to give you another website, because it's a place where you can go to get lots of information about. Whoops, I don't know if you all are able to see my screen or not, but it's called the ABLE National Resource Center, and the URL is ablenrc.org. The ABLE National Resource Center. It's a fantastic resource. They have tons of webinars. Everything that I talked about today, each one of those slides is broken down into an entire webinar. So there's an entire webinar about expenses. There's an entire webinar about Social Security benefits. There's entire webinars about who qualifies. ABLE National Resource Center, ABLE NRC, ABLENRC.org. There's all kinds of activities that you can engage in there to learn more about ABLE as you're making your decisions. And you can compare every state's plan at that site.
That's great.
ABLENRC.org. Thanks for putting that up there.
I put those up on the chat box, those links, those resources, and that sounds like a great place for people to go to get even more information.
Yeah, it's a really good resource.
Yeah. Well, I don't see any other questions. People can feel free to contact JJ. Her email is here on this final slide if you want to connect with her about any additional questions you may have. Thank you so much, JJ, for sharing all this great information with us today. I know I learned a lot, and really appreciate your time, and thanks to everyone who joined us.
Thank you, Katie and Caitlin, and to all of you for hopping on this today. I hope you learned a little something, and as Katie said, please reach out anytime.
Great. And I want to also tell people that we hope you'll join us for our next webinar in this series on June 13th from 1 to 2 about early detection of autism. Thank you. Take care.
Bye now.